If you are over 60 and you are only going to do one exercise every single day, just one, I want to tell you exactly which one it should be, and I will tell you right now, it is probably not what you think it is. It is not running. It is not swimming laps. It is not the elliptical machine, and it is definitely not whatever routine. The internet told you to copy from a 35-year-old fitness influencer after more than 2 decades in medicine, working closely with adults in their 60s, 70 seconds, and 80 seconds. I have watched patients do everything right on paper and still lose their independence. And I have watched other patients do this one simple exercise consistently and completely change the trajectory of how they age. What I am going to share with you today is not a trend. It is not a gimmick. It is the single most evidence-backed, function-preserving, life-extending movement that the human body over 60 can perform. And most people are either not doing it wrong, or were never told why it matters in the first place. That changes today. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand not just what this exercise is, but what it is doing inside your body, in your muscles, your brain, your bones, your heart, and your nervous system every single time you do it. And I will show you exactly how to do it, how often, how long, and what mistakes to avoid. So you can start today and actually feel the difference. My name is Dr. William, and I have spent more than 20 years in clinical medicine working with older adults. I have seen what happens when people age well, and I have seen what happens when they do not. And one of the hardest things I have had to say to a patient is this: the reason you cannot do this anymore is because of what you stopped doing years ago. That is a painful conversation. And the tragedy is that it is preventable, almost entirely preventable. Here is the problem that nobody talks about clearly enough. After the age of 60, your body begins to shift. Muscle mass starts to decline at roughly 1 to 2% per year if you are not actively working against it. That process has a name. It is called sarcopenia, and it is one of the most underestimated forces in aging. It is not just about how you look. It is about how you function. It is about whether you can get up off the floor if you fall, whether you can carry groceries from the car, whether you can climb a flight of stairs without your knees shaking, whether you can live in your own home, on your own terms, into your 80s and beyond. And here is what makes the situation more complicated. As you lose muscle, your balance gets worse, your metabolism slows. Your blood sugar regulation becomes harder. Your risk of falling increases dramatically. Your bones become more fragile because muscle is what loads the bone and keeps it strong. Your brain even starts to suffer because the same muscles that hold your body upright are sending critical signals to your nervous system that keep your cognition sharp. The mainstream conversation about exercise after 60 tends to focus almost entirely on cardio. Walk more, swim, ride a bike, and yes, cardiovascular movement is important. I am not going to tell you it is not. But if you are only doing cardio, you are leaving the most important dimension of aging completely unaddressed. You are protecting your heart while your muscles, your bones, and your balance quietly decline underneath you. So what is the one exercise I recommend above all others for adults over 60? It is resistance training, specifically strength training with your own body weight, and when appropriate, added resistance. And the single best starting point within that entire category, the one exercise that gives you the most return on every minute you invest, is the squat. More specifically, the daily practice of standing from a seated position and lowering yourself back down with control, with intention, and with progression. Now, before you click away, hear me out, because what I am about to tell you about this movement will change the way you think about it forever. But before I get into the details, do me a quick favor. Drop your age in the comments below, just your age. I want to know who is watching this. If you are between 60 and 70, type 60s. If you are in your 70s, type 70s. If you are 80 or older, I especially want to hear from you because you are proof that it is never too late. And if this kind of senior-specific, doctor-backed health information matters to you, hit the subscribe button. I put out videos every week designed specifically for adults over 60, not generic fitness content, not advice meant for 30-year-olds. Just honest, evidence-based guidance for the people who need it most. Now let's talk about the squat. Let me start by reframing what a squat actually is, because most people think of a squat as a gym exercise, something athletes do with a barbell across their shoulders. That is one version of it, but the fundamental movement pattern of squatting is one of the most important things the human body does every single day. Every time you sit down in a chair, that is a squat. Every time you stand up, that is a squat. Every time you lower yourself onto the toilet and rise back up, that is a squat. Every time you get in and out of your car, that is a modified squat. This is not an optional gym movement. This is a movement your body needs to perform safely and confidently dozens of times every single day. And here is the problem. After 60, many people stop challenging this movement. They sit down and just fall into the chair. They push up from armrests because their legs alone cannot lift them. They avoid low seating because getting back up has become too hard. And slowly, quietly, the muscles that perform this movement, the quadriceps, the glutes, the hamstrings, the stabilizers in the hips and core begin to weaken. And once those muscles are gone, once that pattern is lost, getting it back is an uphill battle. That is why the squat is the single most important daily exercise I recommend for every adult over 60. Not because of what it does in the gym, because of what it does in your life. Here is what most people never hear in a 12-minute office visit. After the age of 60, your muscles develop something called anabolic resistance. That is a term worth understanding. In younger people, the muscles respond readily to movement and protein. They rebuild and grow relatively easily. But in older adults, that response becomes blunted. The muscles become harder to stimulate. They do not receive the signal to maintain and grow as efficiently as they once did. That is why you can eat plenty of protein and still lose muscle if you are not actually loading those muscles with resistance. The squat addresses this directly. When you lower yourself down and push back up, you are creating mechanical tension in the largest muscle groups in your entire body. The quadriceps, the four muscles across the front of your thigh. The gluteus maximus, the largest single muscle in the body, responsible for powering almost every movement you make on your feet, the hamstrings, the calves, the core and lower back stabilizers. All of these muscles are activated simultaneously in a single squat. No other exercise recruits this volume of large muscle tissue in one movement. And when you do this consistently, when you challenge these muscles every day with progressive effort, something remarkable happens. The body's muscle protein synthesis pathway reactivates. Your muscles begin to respond. The anabolic resistance starts to loosen. Research published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research has shown that even adults in their 70s and 80 seconds can gain meaningful muscle mass and strength with consistent resistance training, including squat-based movements. The body is not done. It can still respond, but you have to give it the signal. Think of it like this. Your muscles are like employees who have been sitting idle for too long. They are not gone, they are just waiting for a reason to show up. The squat is that reason. Every single day you are sending the signal. You are still needed, get to work. This is the part most people completely miss, and I need you to understand it, because bone health after 60 is not just about calcium. It is not just about vitamin D supplements. It is about mechanical loading. Bone is a living tissue. It responds to stress. When you place a load on a bone through muscle pulling on it, through weight-bearing movement, the bone responds by laying down new mineral density. When you stop loading it, bone density quietly slips away. This process is called Wolff's Law, and it has been understood in medicine for over a century. Yet, it is almost never explained to patients in the context of daily movement. The squat loads the femur, your thigh bone. It loads the tibia. It loads the pelvis and the lumbar spine. And it does so through the natural compression of your own body weight and the pull of your own muscles. Every time you perform a squat with control and intention, you are sending a stimulus directly into the bone tissue that says, stay strong, you are still being used, for women especially, and I want to speak to the women over 60. Watching this directly, bone density loss after menopause accelerates significantly. The estrogen that helped maintain bone is gone, and without that protection, the mechanical loading of exercise becomes even more critical. A hip fracture after 70 is not just an inconvenience. Statistically, a hip fracture in an older adult is associated with a 20 to 30% mortality rate within the following year. That number should stop you cold, not to frighten you, but to help you understand why this movement matters at a level far beyond fitness. The squat is one of the most direct bone-loading exercises available to you, and you do not need a gym to do it. You need a chair. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. Harold was 74 years old, living alone in his home in the suburbs. He was in reasonable health, took a blood pressure medication, walked his neighborhood most mornings, ate a pretty decent diet, but Harold had started to feel unsteady. He told me he grabbed the wall sometimes when he stood up quickly. He had to think about stairs more than he used to. And then one morning, reaching for something on a low shelf, he went down. The fall was not catastrophic. He bruised his hip, shook himself up, but it scared him deeply. He came to me and asked, "What do I do so this doesn't happen again?" I told Harold the same thing I am telling you now. Falls in older adults are not primarily caused by bad luck or slippery floors. They are caused by weakness, specifically weakness in the muscles that control your body's position in space and your ability to recover when your balance is challenged. These are called your postural Stabilizers, the glutes, the deep hip muscles, the quadriceps, the ankle stabilizers, and the core. When these muscles are strong and coordinated, your nervous system can make rapid micro-adjustments every millisecond you are on your feet. You stumble and you recover, the muscles fire fast enough and strongly enough to catch you before you fall. When those muscles are weak, the nervous system cannot compensate fast enough. The stumble becomes a fall, and the fall at 74 becomes the event that changes everything. The squat trains every single one of those stabilizing muscle groups. But more than that, it trains the movement pattern under load. It teaches your body to maintain control, to move through a range of motion with stability, and to generate force from a low position back to upright. That is literally the motor skill of not falling. Harold started doing chair-assisted squats every morning, just 10 to 15 repetitions. Within 6 weeks, he told me the unsteadiness was gone. Within 3 months, he was doing full-body weight squats without holding anything. He told me, "I feel like I got my legs back." That is not an unusual outcome. That is what happens when you give the body the movement it was designed to perform. Now, this is the part that surprises most people. And I want you to stay with me on this one, because the research here is genuinely remarkable. When you perform a squat, and specifically, when you perform it as part of a regular strength training practice, your brain responds. Researchers have documented that resistance exercise stimulates the release of a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your neurons. It promotes the growth and maintenance of brain cells, supports the connections between neurons, and is critically linked to the preservation of memory, learning, and cognitive function. A large study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that resistance training in older adults led to significant improvements in cognitive function, specifically in executive function, which governs planning, decision-making, and mental flexibility, not balance exercises, not cardio alone, resistance training, squats, and similar movements. What that means in real life is this: the muscles in your legs are not just keeping you upright. They are actively maintaining your brain. Every time you challenge those large lower body muscle groups with a squat, you are triggering a cascade of biological events that reaches all the way up into your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that keeps you sharp, organized, and clear-headed, and the connection runs even deeper. The act of balance and coordination that squatting requires activates the cerebellum, the brain region responsible for movement precision and proprioception, your sense of where your body is in space. This region has a far greater role in cognitive function than we once thought. Challenging it with meaningful movement keeps it engaged, active, and neurologically healthy. Think of your brain like a city. The roads stay maintained when traffic uses them. When traffic stops, the roads fall into disrepair. Your brain needs movement. To stay healthy, and big, controlled, weight-bearing movements like the squat are one of the most powerful ways to keep that traffic flowing. Here is what almost no one explains, and this one matters enormously for the hundreds of millions of adults over 60 who are managing blood sugar issues, whether that is prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or simply the metabolic changes that come with aging. Your muscles are the largest glucose disposal system in your body. When your muscles contract, and particularly when large muscles like the quadriceps and glutes contract under load, they pull glucose out of the bloodstream and use it for fuel. This happens through a pathway that does not require insulin. It bypasses the whole problem of insulin resistance. The muscle simply opens its own glucose transport channel called GLUT4, and glucose flows indirectly. This is extraordinary, because insulin resistance is the core problem in blood sugar dysregulation. The cell is not responding to insulin's signal, the door is locked, but when the muscle contracts with sufficient intensity, it unlocks that door from the inside. No insulin key required. The muscle takes the glucose on its own terms. What this means practically is that doing squats, especially after a meal, can produce a rapid, meaningful drop in blood sugar. Research has documented blood sugar reductions of 20 to 30% following a single bout of lower body resistance training in older adults with type 2 diabetes, not medication, not fasting. Movement, squats, and the longer-term benefit is even more powerful. Every unit of muscle you build through consistent squat training increases the total metabolic capacity of your body. More muscle means more glucose can be stored as glycogen. More muscle means more glucose is being burned at rest. Your baseline blood sugar control improves not just in the moment you exercise, but hour by hour, day by day, simply because you have more active tissue consuming that glucose. If you are managing blood sugar, squats are not just exercise, they are metabolic medicine. Now let's address the cardio question directly, because I know some of you are thinking, Doctor, I thought cardio was what I needed for heart health, and yes, cardiovascular exercise matters. But here is what the research has revealed in the last decade that many physicians are still not communicating to their patients. Resistance training, including squats, improves cardiovascular health in ways that are distinct from and complementary to aerobic exercise. A meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine reviewed data from over 1 million participants and found that resistance training was associated with a 17% reduction in cardiovascular disease risk and a 19% reduction in all-cause mortality. And crucially, these benefits were independent of aerobic exercise. They were not just from people who also ran or swam, they were from the strength training itself. How does this work? When you squat, your large lower body muscles create significant demands on circulation. Your heart has to work harder to pump blood to those working muscles. Over time, this improves cardiac output, vascular elasticity, and peripheral circulation. The capillary networks inside your muscles, the tiny blood vessels that deliver oxygen and nutrients, actually grow and expand in response to regular resistance training. This is called angiogenesis, and it improves not just how well your muscles work, but how well every organ in your body is supplied with blood. For adults over 60, this matters in ways that go beyond heart disease statistics. Better circulation means better wound healing, better brain blood flow, warmer extremities, less fatigue, better recovery from illness. Your cardiovascular system is not just your heart, it is the entire network through which life reaches every cell in your body, and squats, done consistently, make that network stronger. This is the one most people over 60 have never heard, and I want you to pay close attention. After 60, the hormonal environment of your body changes significantly. Testosterone declines in both men and women, growth hormone declines. IGF-1, the growth factor that drives tissue repair, drops, and cortisol, the stress hormone, can become chronically elevated in older adults, particularly those who are sedentary, sleep-deprived, or socially isolated. Elevated cortisol chronically is deeply destructive. It breaks down muscle tissue, it impairs bone formation. It worsens insulin resistance, it suppresses immune function, it promotes inflammation, it disrupts sleep. This is not a peripheral issue. It's at the center of accelerated aging. Here is what makes the squat remarkable in this context. Resistance training and squats specifically, engaging the large muscle groups of the lower body, is one of the most potent natural stimulators of testosterone and growth hormone available to the human body at any age. Studies have shown that even in adults in their late 60s and 70 seconds, a single session of lower body resistance training produces a measurable spike in anabolic hormone output. Your body responds to the demand. It reads the signal as, this person still needs strong muscles. Produce the hormones to support them. At the same time, regular resistance training has been shown to reduce chronic cortisol levels and improve the body's overall stress response. You become more resilient, not just physically, but hormonally. Your body's repair systems become more active. Your inflammatory markers go down. Your sleep quality improves because the body, after meaningful movement, enters recovery mode more readily. Your muscles are not just a mobility asset. They are a survival organ, and a landmark study from McMaster University showed that resistance training, even just 2 days per week, resulted in measurable muscle growth in adults between 65 and 80 years of age. The muscles of older adults can and do respond to training. The adaptation is slower than in younger people, but it is real, it is meaningful, and it is available to you right now. The science is not uncertain on this. The only question is whether you will act on it. Here is what I want you to take away from this video. The goal is not to look like you did at 40. The goal is not to compete with anyone. The goal is to keep doing the things that make your life worth living: walking to the park, playing with your grandchildren, climbing the stairs in your home, living in the house you love, waking up every morning with the confidence that your body is going to carry you through the day. The squat is a proxy for all of that. It is the movement that your independence is built on, and the fact that you can practice it every day in your own home, with no equipment, in under 5 minutes, that is not a small thing. That is an extraordinary opportunity. Do not take it for granted. It is not too late. That is not just something I say to make people feel good. It is what the research actually shows. Your muscles can still grow. Your bones can still strengthen. Your brain can still adapt. Your blood sugar can still improve. Your balance can still sharpen. But only if you give your body the signal. Only if you show up every day with the movement it needs. You have more power over how you age than you have ever been told. The standard conversation about aging focuses almost entirely on what you cannot control: your genetics, your history, your diagnoses. I spend my career focusing on the enormous territory of what you absolutely can control. And this is the center of it. Stand up. Lower yourself down slowly. Stand back up. Do it again tomorrow. That is the prescription. It is free, it is evidence-based, and it will change your life if you let it. If this video helped you, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me your age, tell me how your legs have been feeling, tell me whether you are going to try chair squats tomorrow morning. Your comments mean more than you know, and they help other seniors find this information when they need it most. If you found this valuable, please share it with someone over 60 in your life, a spouse, a parent, a friend, a neighbor. You never know whose health you might protect by passing this along. And if you are not subscribed yet, please do. I put out doctor-backed, senior-specific health information every single week, not generic wellness content, not advice designed for younger bodies. Information built specifically for adults over 60 who want to stay strong, stay sharp, and stay independent on their own terms. One last thing, if you have been waking up with stiff joints and struggling with energy in the morning, the way you start your day has a profound effect on how your muscles and joints perform for the rest of it. I made a video on exactly what to do in the first 10 minutes after waking up to prime your body for strength and mobility, and it pairs perfectly with everything I shared today. That video is next. Thank you for being here. Take care of those legs, and I will see you in the next one.